It's got Havidia with my friend Braden from Advantage Athletic Therapy on the Queensway. And Simcoe, I want to do a hard left turn today. I want to get your thoughts on, first on the Damar Hamlin thing in Cincinnati a few weeks ago, where this football safety, he was a safety, just drops. You and I both watched and seen. And as a trainer, as an old lifeguard and as an old hockey trainer, boy, it's the last thing you ever want to see. And I know that you've helped teams with your training capabilities as well. How did you feel at that moment?
Yeah, you feel for everybody involved. Like you said, you feel for Damar, obviously, what he's going through, what his teammates are going through watching that, the coaching staff, the fans, and then the training staff, of course. They had to be on their toes, and they did a fantastic job. Obviously, he's doing really well in his recovery. And a lot of that has to do with the quick action that they had on the sidelines that game.
And I think it's Denny Killington, assistant athletic trainer for the Buffalo Bills, that started administering CPR. And I know, going back to the days when I was a lifeguard, and the training that you do, your repetition in doing things is constant, and you hope that you never have to use it. And this is the one time it had to be used. It was incredible, eh? It was just one of those moments.
Right, exactly. And of course, you have to get recertified. And every time you do it, you feel like, oh, I know this and I know that. But there's always a couple things that you forget about. And it's always great to brush up on those skills. And then the other thing that you see in all levels, but it's more apparent in the professional level, is like the emergency action plan. So everybody on that sideline, on that team, they know the drill, from what hand signals mean, knowing to bring out the AED, to having stuff ready in the back, the quickest way out of the stadium. Like, all that stuff has been practiced in every facility that they're in. And in times like this, when time is of the essence, it's crucial, and it could be a life-saving measure.
Like you said, time is of the essence. And in a smaller capacity too. And it's just this valuable service that the folks that volunteer for our local teams, and you and I have both did that over the years. I know that I believe you help with football, right? You know, other sports as a trainer?
Yeah, in Norfolk Advantage, we cover rugby and football for the Norfolk high schools. And yeah, just knowing where you are in relation to the hospital, where you are in relation to the AED. And I think that's one huge thing that's kind of happened in the last couple of years, is all these public places are starting to get AEDs. If you have never used one before, they're designed that you can pick it up off the wall. It will talk you through things, and you can save a life. So just having the ability to do that and kind of prevent some of those deaths that have happened in the past is massive, I think.
Off air, you and I were talking about we were reminiscing a little bit with stories of the past that we've sort of gone through. And the one thing when I coached hockey for a number of years when my son played, was I always made sure I had a really good trainer, because that's such a valuable asset. And when they can come to you and say, no, this little guy just got knocked in the noggin, he's done for the game. And to have that fortitude to say, you played a lot of the same sports I did growing up. And I got to give trainers a lot of credit, eh? Like, it's not an easy thing to do, is it?
No, and that's the part, like, that we don't like pulling a kid from a game, but it's taking a step back, looking to the future. We have a 14-year-old kid out here playing high school football, gets his bell rung, or a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old in his last football game. Is it really worth going back in there? And it absolutely isn't. 10 years down the line, do you want to have any cognitive deficiencies because of a poor decision you made to go win a high school football game? It's just not necessary. And I think that the new research coming out and the awareness is just massive. And that's why, like you said, having a trainer there that can notice those symptoms or have the ability to kind of tell the coach, like, this is what's going to happen, and they can be the bad guys sometimes, and we can handle that. It's easier for us to make that decision as the coach who's maybe a little bit more invested in the outcome of the game.
When I was a kid playing hockey, and I'm dating myself because we're going to go back, a lot of years. Let's say over 40. Let's just go with that. Anyway, I think back then to the trainers, and the role has changed so much, and the respect that has been gained for trainers is, like, when you see what just happened there 2 weeks ago in Cincinnati, is at a new level. And I really appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about that, because, like you said, it's got to be hard to go to a coach. But has that respect been leveled out? You guys as trainers, I haven't for a while, but you as a current trainer, has that come full circle now? Are you guys that respected that you should be?
it's more than it was. I think there's still sometimes discrepancies, but that's going to happen all the time. And I think that our level of learning as like athletic therapists has definitely garnered some more respect. And especially like whenever I was in my internships working with schools or high level hockey teams, I think that that's where you really notice it. And it's starting to get better and better, but there's still a little bit of room to improve on that.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think we got to give a shout out to all the local trainers and all the jobs they do. For myself, like we talked about, it's all about training. I was lucky. I mean, I think the only thing I ever had to do as far as not even administering really was I was out paddling one day and two guys were in a boat and it caught fire.
Oh, wow.
And all I had was my kayak, and one of my other buddies was paddling with me, and we were able to, get throw bags to them, get them away from the boat because of gas tanks and everything else. It was a small boat, but boy, what you said earlier, you just go into action. Everything that you've been trained kicks in, and away you go, And I talked to my son about this. He's a whitewater guide in the Ottawa area, and some of the injuries that because he has so much wilderness training that he's had to deal with and how they cope. And it's a whole amazing field when you think about it. It's really cool. Can you give us any scenarios that you've had to deal with that that you felt, okay, this is what I've been training for?
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, especially with your son with the white water, obviously adrenaline's flowing through your veins when you're out there. And I know I had one instance where I was covering a rugby game. A player got dump tackled, his head off the turf, bounced up, and right away, you could tell like that fencing response that he was unconscious, ran out onto the field. Of course, protect the head, make sure that you're protecting from spinal injuries like you would have during your lifeguard training.
Yeah.
And then you see the eyes flicker back in the head, and then it's just, all right, what do I have to do to protect your athlete? And then, like you said, that training, even though it might not be fresh on your mind all the time, when something happens, it's amazing that recall, and you just go into that mode of, all right, I need to help this person, and what am I doing to help them? And then like the emergency action plan came into effect there. I was able to put my fist up. They knew that meant bring my bag over. Let's make sure that everything's okay. And then we kind of went from there.
It's amazing. And I think we got to remind people, even everyday folks, remember, get your CPR recertifications, do all that, because you never know when you're going to have to use it. And it's when you least expect it, right? Like obviously when there's games going on, there's going to be injuries. Any kind of contact sport, you may have that come and go and happen, but it's important that on a daily basis, get that. You never know when somebody in the office, and what you said earlier, it's a critical component. I got to say thanks to all the trainers everywhere. I mean, do an amazing job keeping our kids safe, keeping other adults safe. And thanks to guys like you that continue to help sports. You can only grow a sport when all the areas are covered and taken care of. And I think that's part of the analogy now. You want as a parent, and someday you may be a parent, you want to make sure your kid's safe in that environment as much as you can, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we want to be able to do, is kind of relieve some of that stress that parents have with contact sports, knowing that they're in our hands and that we'll do our best to try to keep them as safe as possible.
Exactly. Great show today. I know we got off topic, but I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy, but salute to all the trainers. Thanks for doing this.
No problem. Thanks for having me.